People's Bank of China says it will continue its moderately relaxed monetary policy to support economic recovery. China-ASEAN Expo organizers say this year's event in October will include a financial exhibition. Britain announces an official investigation into its involvement in the invasion and occupation of Iraq. And 2 Spanish police officers are killed in a bomb attack on the island of Mallorca. Hello and welcome to the news on CCTV International. I'm Yang Yan. We begin in Beijing, where China's central bank says it will maintain a moderately easy monetary policy to consolidate the country's economic recovery. The central bank's deputy governor Su Ning says there are more positive signs in the domestic economy, but uncertainties still lie ahead. Feng Ling has more.
The country's big 4 state-owned commercial banks have all released their lending figures. They lent 3.3 trillion yuan in the first half of the year. That's nearly 45% of the nation's total. Meanwhile, the structure of bank loans have also been well managed.
Although
credit is generally growing, we reduce loans in some areas, especially in industries with overcapacity. The steel, cement and coke industries have seen a 3.41 percentage point drop in loan shares.
Similar to the Bank of China, all of the other major commercial banks are doing their part to sustain stable and rapid economic development and spur on economic recovery. They are also giving priority to critical areas and speeding up the pace of extension of credit. Among the priority areas for credit support are rural areas and small and medium-sized enterprises, as well as infrastructure construction and consumption. And sufficient liquidity is playing an important role in driving economic recovery. Feng Ling, CCTV.
China has expressed regret over a European Union decision to impose duties on imports of Chinese steel piping. The Ministry of Commerce says the duties are unnecessary since China imposed a 15% export tax on steel pipes in 2008, significantly cutting its exports to Europe. Because of this, the ministry says Chinese exports do not pose a threat to European steel manufacturers. It's urging the European Commission to comprehensively evaluate the situation and adopt more appropriate measures. On Monday, the European Union set a 5-year duty on imports of Chinese-made steel piping, which will take effect by August the 8th. The European Union has imposed nearly 130 anti-dumping measures, and more than a third of them affect Chinese products. A senior official at the Ministry of Commerce says China is now facing unprecedented challenges of trade frictions.
In the first half of this year, 15 countries and regions lodged 60 anti-dumping probes against Chinese products, amounting to nearly $8.3 billion. This figure far exceeds the $6.2 billion for all of 2008. Those countries include developed countries such as the United States, Australia and Japan, as well as developing countries such as Turkey and India. The cases targeted steel, shoes, toys and other export-dependent industries. Some Chinese analysts try to explain the sharp increase of trade restrictions against China, saying it's a result of the spreading financial crisis. Countries want to protect their own industries by erecting various trade barriers. Analysts say China could be one of the biggest victims because of the vast scale of the country's exports. Another reason is that most of China's exports are labor-intensive products, which are easily squeezed out. Experts warn that there will be even more trade friction in the second half of this year with developing countries who see China as a major competitor in competitive markets. They suggest the government push forward various bilateral trade negotiations. Meanwhile, Chinese products should not be merely dependent on price advantages. They also suggest domestic enterprises put more effort into technological innovation and developing their own brands.
A Chinese delegation reached agreement with Russian authorities last week to resolve the Cherkizovsky market issue, but some Chinese merchants are still having trouble retrieving their goods. So a coordination group from China in Moscow is seeing what they can do to help the Chinese traders affected by the shutdown. Scott Pruitt has the story.
The coordination group is led by the China General Chamber of Commerce in Russia. They negotiated with Russian representatives on Wednesday. The Russian side says they agree with the proposals brought up by the Chinese side, and they have also said they welcome supervision from the media. Both sides are aiming to resolve the problems the Chinese traders have after the abrupt closure of the Cherkizovsky market. Some of the Chinese businessmen say the market seized their goods, and they have no idea where their stock has been taken.
Our keys for the warehouse have been confiscated. We peeped through the crack in the door and discovered that our goods had disappeared.
Chinese businessmen also claim police and immigration authorities often detain them for no reason. They also say some security guards in the market ask for payoffs while transferring goods.
Now the Chinese people in the market are in urgent need of help in all aspects. The most urgent problem is how to transfer the goods at minimal cost. What's more, the safety of the Chinese should be protected.
The coordination group says it will continue to protect the legal rights of the Chinese businessmen. Meanwhile, a shopping mall will reportedly be built on the site of the closed market, with the investment from the Chinese side. Scott Pruitt, CCTV.
Organizers of the 6th China-ASEAN Expo in Nanning say the event will be held between October the 20th and the 24th. For the first time, a financial exhibition has been added. The Expo will invite financial officials from China and ASEAN countries and representatives from the World Bank, Asia Development Bank and other global financial institutions, as well as economists and scholars. They will discuss various measures to cope with the current global financial crisis and to create more business opportunities. The regionalization of China's currency will also be a topic. The first China-US strategic and economic dialogue has concluded in Washington. The talks resulted in agreement on cooperation in several areas, including the strengthening of cooperation in financial supervision. Chairman of China Banking Regulatory Commission, Liu Mingkang, says international supervisory cooperation is rudimentary at the present time. Liu says both sides look forward to working together to improve standards and enhance banking supervision. Liu says his commission is ready to provide relevant information on Chinese banks that operate in the U.S. He also hoped the U.S. could provide information China needs. A regular mechanism has been suggested for information exchanges on specific topics such as mitigation of cross-border risks and crisis management. You are watching CCTV International. More news just ahead. Stay with us. Come back. The UK is launching an official investigation into its war in Iraq, which claimed the lives of 179 British soldiers and up to 1 million Iraqis. The investigation will examine all key decisions made by UK troops from 2001 to 2009. Liao Liang has the story.
Former senior civil servant John Chilcott has been named head of the investigation committee into Britain's war in Iraq. He spoke to the press on Thursday.
Taking evidence direct from witnesses rather than conducting our business through lawyers. The inquiry is not a court of law and nobody is on trial, but I want to make one thing absolutely clear. This committee will not shy away from making criticisms. If we find that mistakes were made, that there were issues which could have been dealt with better, we will say so frankly.
Chilcott said his committee has been granted full access to all relevant documents and information, including those of confidential nature. The committee may also inquire former top government officials, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. Although Prime Minister Gordon Brown said earlier that the investigation will be conducted in secrecy, Chilcot says he wants to make it public so long as national security is not affected. Public hearings will be broadcast live, and all of his documents will be available on his website. The investigation's report will come out after next year's election. Liao Liang, CCTV.
2 police officers were killed in an explosion on the Spanish island of Mallorca on Thursday. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack, but authorities laid the blame on the Basque separatist group ETA. The bomb exploded outside offices run by the Civil Guard paramilitary police. Amateur video taken moments after the explosion showed a car in flames. Police later deactivated another bomb placed beneath a second car near the site of the first explosion. Authorities briefly closed all ports and airports on the island. This was the second attack targeting the police force in as many days. About 60 people were injured in car bombing outside a Civil Guard barracks in northern Spain on Wednesday. Frank-Walter Steinmeier, Germany's Social Democratic candidate for Chancellor, has presented his campaign team ahead of the September election. Steinmeier is currently Germany's foreign minister. Steinmeier introduced a 19-member team that includes 10 women. Among his team is 35-year-old Manuela Schweizer, regional government minister, who will be Steinmeier's spokeswoman on family policy. Several SPD ministers currently serving in Chancellor Angela Merkel's coalition government are also part of Steinmeier's team. A day earlier, Steinmeier dropped Health Minister Ulla Schmidt from his team amid public fury at her taking an official car to Spain. The SPD is behind the Conservatives in opinion polls. South Korea is asking the Democratic People's Republic of Korea to release a fishing vessel with 4 crew members after it strayed into DPRK waters. Early on Thursday, a DPRK patrol boat took 800 Yeonan into custody after the 29-ton boat crossed into the country's eastern waters. South Korea claims the vessel's satellite navigation system malfunctioned and has made a formal written request to the DPRK asking for the boat's release.
Our fishing boat has crossed the sea border, but for now, the cause of this is assumed to be due to the malfunction of the satellite navigation system. We sent a message through the South-North Maritime Affairs Authorities channel this morning, insisting on the return of our crew and the boat as soon as possible.
And that's it for this news update on CCTV International. I'm Yang Yan in Beijing. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.